What else is going on?
So Ben and I, Charlie, you've been on the show for a while, been talking about estate planning. So Ben and I have been having a conversation strategic about, how do we get this message to more people? How do we get people to feel that it's not a commitment? Just come and have a conversation, right? Because a lot of people, they'll hesitate to schedule a one-on-one meeting with Ben because they're not sure they're going to go through with a plan, right? So they don't want to waste Ben's time. So Ben and I decided on Tuesday nights, we're going to be there anyway. We're going to have a conversation. We've got a nice room. It's not a lecture. It's not a instructions on this is what you have to do. It's bring your questions. So the idea, the concept is we're going to sit around, limited seating, maybe 8 or 10 individuals along with Ben and I'm going to spark conversation with Ben, who is the planner. He does an amazing job. People are singing his praises, reviews, raving at the purpose of what he's doing, which is giving him life energy because he's helping people and he feels really, really good about it. And we're going to have conversation and simply ask a lot of the questions we're doing here, right here on the radio. Ben, let's talk about estate planning. Like, why?
Yeah, that's great.
Who, when, So Tuesday nights, you call the office, 781-319-1900, 781-319-1900, and ask about, reserving a seat. Again, they're limited seats. We're doing one Tuesday night, and this is where I'm announcing it. So give a call, first 8 callers, right? Come in and have a conversation with Ben and I about estate planning, and it'll be really informal, no commitment. We're going to be there anyway.
And you're right on 139.
We're on 139
in Marshfield, yeah.
That's it. And we're going to
awesome.
be, we're not going to be in a conference room where it's going to feel formal and stuffy. We're going to be in the library of the firm, which is a real informal, comfortable chairs, and have a conversation with us. And, no commitment. Doesn't make sense for you, you go home.
Yeah.
If you want to set a one-on-one and commit to the hour with Ben, and think you're going to move forward with checking that box once and for all, get that estate plan done, then come on.
Yeah, it's definitely a great opportunity, like I understand, because, and especially with this sort of conversation, informal type thing. Again, I'm a college student. I'm no stranger to the lectures and stuff like that. So being able to just have that kind of conversation and learn about something as important as estate planning, that's just an awesome opportunity. So it means a lot to a lot of people that you're doing that, which is awesome.
Yeah, Charlie, thank you for saying that because, people don't like to be talked at.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Lectured to, right? It's a conversation. I imagine the people in the room will form somewhat of a bond because no question is a dumb question. You're there to have questions answered. What if this? What if that? And, if we need to take a confidential time out, then we'll say, listen, this is getting close to confidentiality purposes. We would probably want to do a one-on-one with that. But let's keep it high level. What if? How's this? Can this be done? How about this? What if this were to happen? Those are the questions we're looking to answer. Check those boxes. Write down your questions. Bring them.
100%.
And at a minimum, you're going to leave with more information than you came with.
Well, it's good to have that type of a sit down informal that way, because I bumped into a lot of people and they said, well, I can't take it with me, so I don't care. And the problem is that they leave basically unfinished business behind them, especially if there's family or if they've had siblings themselves, and now there's a house, there's cars, there's some type of assets, and you don't really want the government to take over all that and decide where it's all going to go.
That's right, Larry. And, there are, like Dr. Joe says, everyone has their own IM, right? Mm-hmm. So people come to that situation very differently, uniquely, in their own way. And if that's the mindset, then this conversation's probably not worth your time.
I'm selling everything that I own one by one, so that any, at this point, I'm not married, there's no kids, so any cousins, and I have hundreds of them out there, they won't have to deal with going through every single thing. And they got a life insurance policy to take care of the rest of the stuff.
We can talk all about it. Come on Tuesday.
I think I will. I mean, it's very important that you set something up, because a lot of people say, well, that's a long time from now. Well, it may not be. And it's
never
the
know.
what you don't know that can open up a door that if nothing's been set up.
And it
And your
creates
family
chaos.
gets nothing, so-
And that's the whole
Yeah.
tragedy of it, is they're mourning the loss of the human being, and then
Having to deal with
They're-
everything else. Yeah.
they're left with a lot of work to
Yeah.
do.
And even when there's stuff that's been prepared and stuff, there's still a lot of work that needs to go on too. So that can be overwhelming at times too. Have you ever done a whole show for the whole thing where the person has set up everything and now everything's been distributed through the family, but now it's like, what do we do with all of this other stuff that is there? Jewelry and paintings that may have not, they may have given the house to the family members and all the contents, but now what do the family members do with the content other than maybe somebody wants grandma's silverware
Who
or
else?
something?
Who else here has that same question? Raise your hand. Who else here has that same question? Raise your hand.
There you go.
Come by on Tuesday.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
all about
what
questions.
Tuesday's all about, is having a conversation. No question is a silly question.
Yeah.
I know the answer to your question,
See?
but we're going to talk about it on Tuesday.
That's the way to, and you got to follow through with it. You got to
Speaking of
find out
questions,
what you want to do.
we get a lot of questions in this show. Mark knows that. I know that. Larry, I'm sure you know that.
Yep.
One of the questions we got last week was by a different Larry. He lived in Duxbury. I'm not sure if I know the guy, but
It's too many Larrys out
it's
there.
a lot of Larrys. And he asked something about trust funds, and it got me thinking. It got me thinking a lot. So I did some research on my own when I got home and just through the weekend. And there's one thing, speaking of questions, that I never really was able to figure out, get my head around. What is the difference between an irrevocable trust and then the opposite side of that coin, a revocable trust? If you wouldn't mind help me out with that.
I love it, Charlie. You're digging in.
It's interesting. It's good to know. I'm only 21. Like, I got to know this stuff.
It's organizational, and you know what? The fact that you're thinking about this stuff at your age is so great, and that's why we like to have the Young Adult Protection Plan also at Stiles Law, where after 18 years old, these kids, they start their plans. They create a new plan for power of attorney, healthcare proxy, so that the parents can help them when they're outside the home. But it creates a mini plan. It creates this accelerant of, okay, I'm going to stay organized. I'm going to actually get an IRA. I'm going to talk with a financial advisor. I'm going to get a jump start and not really start all of this stuff in my 30s where most people do. I'm going to start it in my 20s and really organize. And that's what estate planning is truly, Charlie. It's a concept of organization and planning, right? A lot of people are planners. Some people are not planners. But for the folks that are planners, you get the holistic approach of what is going to happen while I'm alive if something were to happen, right? What is going to happen after I died? Larry, we were talking about this on the earlier segment. If someone dies and they haven't organized anything, not only are the people mourning the loss of the human being, but now they're stuck with a whole lot of work to do. And utilizing trusts is a tremendous strategy. So Charlie, to answer your question, it's a simple concept, but really complicated uses as to when you would use a revocable trust versus an irrevocable trust. But in essence, a revocable trust gives you the power to change it. And a lot of people want that, right? Because, hey, listen, I want to get organized, but I also want the flexibility of, I might change my mind on some things, right? Things may happen. People may change, and my thought around that relationship may change. I may find new charitable endeavors that I wasn't aware of beforehand, and I want to add that in. That creates a revocability, and you can edit it, you can amend it, you can make the changes to it. As opposed to an irrevocable trust, you're in essence giving that away at the time of creating that trust. So you don't have the ability to change that. And that's where people talk about the Medicaid planning a lot. That's the irrevocable trust. So you hear people say, I don't want the state to take my home. There's a lot of fear marketing out there, which is unfortunate, but that is commerce, right? So I don't want the state to take my home. And you don't really understand what that actually means, right? So it's nursing homes and the cost with Medicaid. And the planning that's utilized there is an irrevocable trust as opposed to a revocable trust. But that's something that Ben and I will be talking about on Tuesdays. And it's a question that many people have. We get that question all the time. So again, who in this room had that question? What's the difference between an irrevocable trust and a revocable trust? So we're going to answer questions like that, but we're going to spark conversation. Again, for those listening to this on the Sunday Conversation, Tuesdays, 781-319-1900, 781-319-1900. Ask how to get a seat in a limited seating in a conversation with Ben and I. Ben is the estate planner at Stiles Law. I'm going to get conversations flowing. No question is a silly question, so bring all of your questions, and we'll be there to answer them. At minimum, you'll leave that 1 hour conversation with more information than you had before.
Yeah.
Very
and again,
good.
if you know anybody my age in their 20s, tell them to go. Tell them to get on the phone. Tell them to go to Stiles Law 139 in Marshfield so they can start early, start planning, because it's never too early to get started on that. So.
And folks, don't forget about that young adult protection plan. We can call the office and ask about that as well. I know folks are going off to school, going off to the union, going off to live in the city, leaving the nest, launching. And if you want to make sure that you can help them out, you're going to want to get the young adult protection plan with the power of attorney and the healthcare proxy, etc.
Etc.
Feel Good Fridays. Mark Stiles of Stiles Law in Marshfield, Route 139 in Marshfield, and I know I'll be seeing you
Tuesday.
We'll see you
You
Tuesday.
got to call and reserve a seat,
and
though.
then Thursday too.
Limited seat. Oh, yes, on the
You gotta
Dr. Joe
you
show.
gotta get back on that show. Yeah.
We're going to come back to the studio. Hear that, Dr. Joe? Tom, we're coming back to the studio.
All right, Mark. You have a great weekend.
You too. Larry, Charlie, thank you, folks. We'll talk to you next week.
Good to see you, man.
Bye.
Thanks for coming in.